Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe, give this video a like, always comment and share. Let's get into it. Los Angeles Clippers versus Charlotte Hornets. For this matchup, I'm siding with the Charlotte Hornets. Both teams come in struggling, but the Clippers are dealing with too many injuries and haven't been able to find any rhythm offensively or defensively. They've dropped 9 of their last 10, and with Bradley Beal out for the season and Kawhi still sidelined, the weight on James Harden continues to grow with very little help around him. Charlotte, meanwhile, has been much stronger at home and has picked up wins there against competitive teams. They also get Brandon Miller back in the lineup, which is a big boost on both ends. With the Clippers short-handed and the Hornets improving at home, I'm leaning Charlotte in this spot. For the player prop, I'm going Brandon Miller, over 15.5 points. With him returning to the lineup, he steps right back into a meaningful scoring role on a team that needs a second reliable option next to LaMelo Ball. The matchup also favors him, with the Clippers missing multiple wing defenders and relying heavily on depth pieces. With expected shot volume and opportunity, I'm rolling with the over. New York Knicks versus Orlando Magic. For this matchup, I'm siding with the New York Knicks negative 1.5. Both teams come in playing well, but injuries swing this one. Orlando losing Paolo Banchero hurts their scoring and offensive rhythm, while New York, despite missing OG Anunoby and having Jalen Brunson listed as questionable, has proven they can still execute late in close games. With both teams sitting at 7-3 in their last 10, momentum is pretty even, but the Knicks' depth and defensive edge give them the advantage in this spot. I'm rolling with New York to grab a road win and keep building momentum. For the player prop, I'm going Karl Anthony Towns over 21.5 points. With key players out, Towns should see an increased scoring role. The matchup is also favorable with Orlando missing interior defensive bodies, giving KAT room to operate with expected volume and efficiency. Atlanta Hawks versus New Orleans Pelicans. For this matchup, I'm siding with the Atlanta Hawks negative 8.5. Atlanta has been the more consistent team, and even though they're coming off a loss, they've shown they can respond well, especially on the road, where they're 7-3 this season. Meanwhile, New Orleans continues to struggle on both ends of the floor, ranking last in scoring and bottom tier defensively, allowing over 121 points per game. With injuries piling up and offensive rhythm still an issue, this becomes a tough spot for the Pelicans to keep pace. For the player prop, I'm going Jalen Johnson, over 22.5 points. He stepped into a major role this season and continues to produce efficiently with strong volume. With Trae Young out and additional usage shifting toward Johnson, this number sets up well for another strong offensive outing. Chicago Bulls versus Washington Wizards. For this matchup, I'm siding with the Chicago Bulls negative 11.5. Even though Chicago has been inconsistent lately, this is a clear get-right spot. Washington comes into this game on a long losing streak and continues to struggle on both ends of the floor, especially defensively, where they've been giving up huge runs early and failing to recover. Chicago has more talent, more depth, and far better structure, and after a rough loss to Miami, this is the perfect bounce-back opportunity. For the player prop, I'm going Josh Giddey, over 7.5 assists. With Chicago expected to control pace and get easier looks in transition and half-court action, Giddey's playmaking role should be active. He just finished 1 assist shy of a triple-double in his last game, and with shooters around him and a favorable matchup against a weak defense, this line sets up well for another productive passing night. Detroit Pistons versus Milwaukee Bucks. For this matchup, I'm siding with the Detroit Pistons negative 8.5. Detroit has been one of the hottest teams in the league, sitting at 13-2 and riding a 10-game winning streak. They've been locked in defensively, holding opponents to just 112 points per game while consistently executing on the offensive end. Momentum, chemistry, and consistency have all been there. Milwaukee, meanwhile, comes into this game short-handed with key players out, including Giannis, and riding a 3-game losing streak. Their offense can still shoot the three at a high level, but the lack of efficiency at the free throw line and defensive struggles puts them at a disadvantage against a deep, confident Detroit squad. With the Pistons rolling and the Bucks trying to find answers, I'm sticking with Detroit to cover. For the player prop, I'm going Cade Cunningham over 25.5 points plus assists. Cade has been the engine of this offense and is coming off a strong performance where he posted 25 points and 10 assists. With Milwaukee missing key defensive pieces and struggling with perimeter containment, his usage and playmaking should remain high. The matchup lines up well for Cade to hit this number. Dallas Mavericks versus Memphis Grizzlies. For this matchup, I'm siding with the Memphis Grizzlies plus 2.5. Both teams have been struggling, but Memphis comes into this one with momentum after snapping a 5-game losing streak with a dominant 137-96 win over Sacramento. They shot it well, set the tone early, and finally looked connected on both ends. Dallas did pick up a win last night, but they've still dropped 9 of their last 12 and are playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Key injuries are still affecting their rotation, and recent trends point to inconsistency whenever they follow a win. With Memphis coming off their strongest performance in weeks and the Mavericks dealing with fatigue and roster pieces missing, for the player prop, I'm going Cooper Flagg over 17.5 points. He's coming off a career-high 29-point outing and has now scored 21 or more in 2 of his last 3. With multiple starters out, Dallas continues to rely on Flagg for scoring and shot creation. His usage, confidence, and recent shot volume line up well with this number. Denver Nuggets versus Sacramento Kings. For this matchup, I'm siding with the over 233.5 total. Denver continues to play at an elite level on both ends, sitting at 12-3 with one of the best offenses in the league and improving defensive efficiency. Even with injuries to Christian Braun and Aaron Gordon, this team is still pushing pace, sharing the ball, and putting up big numbers, especially with Nikola Jokic averaging near historic levels and Jamal Murray back in rhythm. On the other side, Sacramento comes into this one struggling and riding an 8-game losing streak, but they still have enough scoring talent to contribute to a high total. Their offense and defense both rank near the bottom statistically, which creates a matchup where Denver should have plenty of scoring opportunities, while the Kings can still put up points with Zach LaVine leading the way. With both teams trending toward high-scoring outcomes and Denver already winning both matchups this season, the total sets up well for points. For the player prop, I'm going Nikola Jokic over 51.5 points plus rebounds plus assists. He's been dominant all season and comes into this matchup averaging nearly a triple-double with massive usage. With injuries affecting Denver's rotation and the Kings ranking near the bottom defensively, Jokic should continue to produce across the board, making the over the spot I'm taking here.